Welcome to another episode of Farm Show TV, and I'm thrilled to be coming to you live from the actual set of what you will be seeing when you tune in to Canada's Farm Show Virtual in June. We are going to be showcasing a little bit of what you can expect to see when you tune into the event. We'll also be talking about some of the things that are happening in the news this past week and more. But for now, let's just break down who you can expect to see tuning into Farm Show TV this month. In this episode of Farm Show TV, we have a jam-packed show for you. First of all, we'll be checking in with EDR's Chief Economic Growth Officer, Tina Beaudry-Meller, who's going to be talking about the impact the latest news from the canola industry is going to have in the city of Regina and surrounding areas. We're also going to be finding out about the outstanding Young Farmers program, both regionally and actually nationally. We'll be checking in with one of the representatives from the program itself. And along with that, we will be chatting with the two nominees that have been nominated right here in Saskatchewan, and you'll be seeing them showcased at Canada's Farm Show Virtual Event in June. We're also going to be checking in with the host of Canada's Farm Show Virtual Event happening in June, and we have some exciting news to share about her not only hosting the event, but some future plans we have for her as well. All that and more on this episode of Farm Show TV. Stay tuned. Let's get at it. Well, fresh off the heels of her newly appointed position with EDR is Tina Beaudry-Meller, and she is the new Chief Economic Growth Officer, and she's joining us today on the show. Thank you so much for joining us virtually, of course.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
And before we get into it, I do want to say congratulations on this new role. For those who might not be familiar with what exactly the Chief Economic Growth Officer does, Tina, would you mind giving a little breakdown of what your new role consists of?
Yeah, primarily I'm responsible for the growth strategies for the Greater Regina area. And so that would include the food and ag hub, as well as some competitiveness framework and investment and traction. And I'm also responsible for the entrepreneurship space, our Audacity movement, and growing our tech ecosystem.
Just a little bit, not that big of a portfolio at all. So whatever.
Just one or two things.
So Tina, you did mention ag, and obviously that's what we're going to get into. Obviously, canola has been a hot topic in the news in the recent weeks, and obviously hearing our friends at Viterra announcing the canola crush plant opening in Regina, and obviously Cargill, of course, announcing the canola processing facility. What do those two specifically mean for Regina and the surrounding area?
Well, it's really a game changer, Sabine. I mean, these two proposed crushing facilities will create the province's single largest market for canola seed, comprising about a third of Saskatchewan's 2019 production. And keep in mind that the more that we add value to our canola products, the more jobs that we are creating along the line as well. So this is really huge for the Greater Regina area and for job creation.
And that's obviously, you know, a lot of people think when they think ag sector, they may not think that they may be qualified to work in that sector. But there's so many different areas when it comes to job creation for things like this. And many people may be thinking job opportunities more in the urban surrounding when it comes to Regina, of course. But ag itself and the ag industry plays a huge role for the city of Regina, wouldn't you say?
I would completely agree. The Hill School of Business, to go to your earlier point, has started an agribusiness program. I think that's really important to feed into the pipeline of some of these opportunities. I think the logistics part of the Greater Regina area is a big boost for some of these things. I mean, we have CNCP, the railway, we have the GTH, the Chuka intermodal. So there's lots of opportunities in logistics planning and supply chain management. And of course, there's a ton of opportunity, I think, for research into some of the tech spaces of where ag is. We have, of course, the cultivator here. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, to start, grow, and attract businesses to this area.
So I want to kind of move into talking about Farm Show coming up, our Farm Show virtual event. But before we do that, obviously with ag being part of your portfolio, what do you hope to see in the coming years when it comes to growth and economic growth in particular for Regina and the surrounding area?
Well, right now, one of my mandates is to build a food and ag hub here around the Greater Regina area. So part of that, I think, is really important right now, especially as we're coming out of COVID, because as we're role to play in economic recovery. You know, we've seen that the Greater Regina area and Saskatchewan in general has a fully integrated supply chain of really safe and sustainable food. And we've seen throughout COVID how actually very critical that is. And so my mandate over the next year or the next number of years is to build a strategy for the Greater Regina area, to gather our businesses together and begin to develop some benchmarks, and then to really grow in a competitive way. You know, we're in the middle of 80% of Canada's farmland here in the Greater Regina area. So to boost those natural assets and to create opportunities for the next generation.
Well, you're certainly going to be busy for the next little while, but great ideas that I hope we see come to fruition sooner rather than later. Now, I do want to move over to Canada's Farm Show. Obviously, this year it's a CFS Virtual Event that'll be happening in June. We are so used to having it in person and seeing such a large turnout, which, of course, also has an economic impact on the city. Tina, how important would you say staying connected, and next year when we're able to come back in person, how important would you say the Canada's Farm Show is for the economy here in the city?
It's incredibly important. It has a tremendous economic impact for visitors in our economy who take advantage of our accommodations in our hospitality industry, which is really struggling right now in COVID. And there's lots of deal flow that happens as a result of the Farm Progress Show. And so I think there's a lot of, we're going to be missing a lot. However, I will say that I do think on a go-forward basis that most of these events will have perhaps both platforms working. There'll be, in the future, I think we can expect there will be kind of an online version that will continue as well as an in-person version, which actually will expand access for a number of people who maybe can't travel here for a variety of reasons.
For sure, and that is something that we're taking great pride in. And I think for many trade shows or many events happening in this past year, that easy connection from across the globe, people can connect and network that way. So we are certainly looking forward to that when it comes to CFS Virtual this year. But we do look forward to getting back into person, face-to-face meetings next year at Canada's Farm Show 2022. Tina, I know you got to log off and log back into another meeting because this is the way of the virtual world these days. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.
Well, I hope to see you at Canada's Farm Show.
Thank you.
If you're looking to add an expert voice to your decision-making process, invite your local Ministry of Agriculture specialist to the table. Located in offices around the province, specialists provide the latest agronomic and programming information and advice tailored to your operation. Contact the Agriculture Knowledge Centre by phone or online to connect with your nearest specialist today.
Connexus Credit Union is proud to support Saskatchewan's agriculture producers. Thank you for your commitment to growing safe, sustainable food and your continued investment in Saskatchewan's communities. From all of us at Connexus, we wish you a safe and prosperous growing season.
Well, back by popular demand, this year's virtual event will be the Outstanding Young Farmers Awards. And joining me now, virtually of course, is the Regional Chairperson for Saskatchewan, Darlene Krikow, with the Outstanding Young Farmers Program. Thanks so much for joining me, Darlene.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're really excited to have you on because we are going to be showcasing, obviously, the nominees later in this program. And of course, it's something that we see happen every year in person at Canada's Farm Show. And of course, this year we didn't want to leave it out. So we do have the two nominees that we're going to be celebrating at this year's event in June. But before we get to talking about Saskatchewan's Outstanding Young Farmers, Darlene, maybe you could explain to those who aren't familiar with it, what is the Outstanding Young Farmers Program all about?
Certainly, I would be happy to do that. The Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers Program is an opportunity to showcase the very best and most innovative and progressive farmers in the country, and for me and my group in Saskatchewan. So we have a very diverse group of farmers who are 40 and under every year. who have the opportunity to be judged to represent Saskatchewan at a national event.
And how important is that, Darlene? Not only just for Saskatchewan, but nationally across the country, to recognize the young farmers. Obviously, we look at farming as being a family affair that kind of you grow into and you just kind of take over from generation to generation. Why was it so important to recognize the young farmers?
It is so important to recognize the young farmers because often people who farm and who have businesses just go about their work. They don't stop. They don't look for recognition. Recognition isn't something that they're interested in. Most farmers, all farmers, are just doing the very best they can to produce the best crops, the best animals, be the best protectors of animals, conservationists. So this is an opportunity to recognize those people who are coming out with innovative ideas and exceptional ways to take care of their animals and land. So by recognizing young farmers, we are encouraging young farmers in what they're doing.
So the program, obviously we have the awards, we have the 2 nominees that we'll be talking about and talking to, of course. But what else does the program itself entail, Darlene?
I'm going to tell you my favorite part of the program. My favorite part of the program is the networking. We have had the opportunity to travel around the country. I'll give you a little bit of background. Every year, the national event is held in a different province, in a different part of Canada. And the provincial group who is hosting the national event wants to showcase the very best of ag that they have. So we have been from coast to coast and seen amazing farm operations that I wouldn't see in Saskatchewan. And fortunately for us, we've had the opportunity to bring our kids, as do many people who come to these events, so that our kids can be part of it and our kids can see how diverse the ag industry is.
Which is very important, and I know we've had that conversation throughout the show as well, talking about the diversity when it comes to farming. When we talk about the awards, what are the awards all about?
So the awards, the first round of the awards ceremony is when all the provincial honorees, or provincial nominees rather, gather and present their information on paper, on computer, to a judging panel. And that judging panel at each provincial level selects the couple or the person who they think is the best representation of agriculture in their province. The most exceptional, the most diverse, perhaps the most out of the box, an amazing agricultural practice. Then from that level, each province has then selected a winner or an honoree, and those honorees are placed together in a judgment type panel at a national level. And then 2 winners, an East and a West, are selected to represent Canada's outstanding young farmers.
And then what happens from there? We've heard that there's obviously a monetary part of the prize, but overall, how would you say, how does this benefit the winners? What does it mean for them?
My husband and I were part of the 2013 group. We represented Saskatchewan in 2013, and we were not selected as the national winners that year, but we have become alumni. So we have the opportunity to go to every national event and continue to be part of the group. We continue to network. We continue to meet these people and develop relationships and see new practices that are not necessarily industry standards yet, but are new and upcoming. So the rewards go beyond monetary. The networking is incredible. The relationships are incredible. It's an experience that is very hard to describe.
So obviously, there's some amazing benefits for those who could possibly get involved. Is it open for anyone under the age of 40, any farmers to get involved? And if it is, how can they get involved?
It is open to anyone under the age of 40, and you can get involved by being nominated by anyone. It can be by a peer or a bank group or an accountant. In our case, it was our accountant that nominated us. Anyone could be nominated. Anyone who exhibits a love and a passion for agriculture.
And when we talk specifically about Saskatchewan, obviously we'll be chatting with Michael and Jessica and Stuart, the two nominees from Saskatchewan for this year's Outstanding Young Farmers. What do you think it means? I mean, you did touch on it a little bit in terms of networking, but how important is it, or what do you think it means for Saskatchewan's young farmers?
I can speak from my own perspective. And when we went through the process, I found that we had to think about our farm in a way that we hadn't really thought about it. You have to look back. You have to look at where you've been and what it took to get there. And as a farmer, and as young farmers, we were always looking ahead. We were looking forward at what was next and what would we need next and what would we do next. How would we get there? But for us, we had to stop and look back and see what it was that had taken us to the point that we were at. And that experience alone was really, it was something to be so proud of. It was quite an amazing thing to do that otherwise we wouldn't have done.
Well, there you go. I feel like you've sold it to me, and I know there's probably many people out there that would be interested in knowing more about the Outstanding Young Farmers Program, Darlene. And if they are, or if there's someone that's watching now and thinks, hey, I know someone that I could nominate, where can they go to find out more information or even nominate?
Certainly. They can search Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers, and there are links there to each province's website. And from there, you can find all the nomination forms you would possibly need, and you can find my information and Elaine's information, and we would be happy to help you out if you needed that help.
Perfect. Well, again, Darlene joining us, and she is the regional chairperson for Saskatchewan with the Outstanding Young Farmers Program. Darlene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Boost your efficiency and your bottom line with Young's equipment and Case IH tractors, including the cutting-edge Puma 150 CVX and the Maxim 145 with best-in-class efficiency. Check out the Case IH lineup today at Young's Equipment.
One of this year's nominees for the Outstanding Young Farmers Awards is Michael and Jessica Lovitch, who are joining me now live in studio, I want to say, but similar to what you normally see for Farm Show TV. Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem.
So I introduced you two, but I didn't introduce who and what you're all about, and that is Love Home Holsteins, right?
Yes.
Correct.
All right, so about 20 minutes outside of the city. Could you maybe, Jessica, explain what is Love Home Holsteins all about?
So Love Home Holsteins is our family-run dairy farm. We milk about 70 cows, and our 3 kids are part of it as well, so it's very much a family operation. And we've been here in Saskatchewan for about 6 years now, I guess. But dairy farming is something that both of us have grown up with and something that we are passionate about, and so
So, Michael, Jessica mentioned it's something that you guys have grown up with all your lives. And before we went on air, you were saying as well, like it's something you've known all your lives. How did Love Home Holsteins come to be?
Well, we started in Alberta. I've dairied my whole life there type deal. And then when we got married, we dairied with my parents. And then when we moved to Saskatchewan, we wanted our own identity. So it became Love Home Holsteins. And that's what... that's our farm name, and that's who we're known by. So
when you guys talk about, obviously, your own identity or kind of your own brand when it comes to dairy farming, what sets you apart from others?
That's a really good question. I'm not really entirely sure. We, I guess, have gone through some not so easy times getting up and running, and a lot of people didn't think we could do it on our own. But here we are 5 years into it, and things are going quite well right now. And so can I maybe ask a little bit more about that? You know, I think obviously the ag industry, especially getting into farming, is not always the easiest. And obviously you guys had it in your background. You've grown up with it. What was it knowing that, you know,
you're kind of almost like an underdog. People aren't sure if you're going to make it. People aren't sure if you're going to succeed at it. Was it that drive that pushed you to get to where you are now? What pushed you? What motivated you to keep going?
I think we're too stubborn to quit, to be honest, yeah.
Well, that helps.
There's a little bit of that. We love what we do, though, too, right? Like, Michael for sure could not see himself doing anything else besides something in the dairy industry. We're passionate about the cows. Like, that is the main focus at Love Home. It's all about the cows. And then the product is second, and that's what I love. I love feeding people. And so I think that just continues to drive us every day because it energizes us.
It's kind of the best of both worlds. You like one part, you like the other part more. Where do your kids fit into this? How did you get them involved, and how are they now being a part of everything?
Well, all three of them have different personalities, that's for sure. The oldest one, she likes the cows and stuff, but she's a more like animal lover type deal, maybe more than just cows. The middle one, she loves to probably be in the house more, look after cooking and stuff like that. Then our youngest one, we laugh and we call her the farm manager because she's only 6 years old and she could probably take you through the barn and tell you every animal and when they calved and the whole 9 yards. So.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, they all have different personalities, but they all fit into the farm differently, right? Like, we create a space for them that they like because it's important for us to work as a family and for them to learn the work ethic that goes with the farm, but we don't want to discourage them. If it's not something that they love, we don't want them, to hate being there either. So we fit, the work that they help us out with kind of to their personalities, and then everybody's happy and we get a lot more done.
That's how a team works, right?
The jobs that they like to do, we kind of get them to do, and there's days where they do jobs they don't like to do, but it's part of learning and part of growing up, so.
And how important is that? I mean, obviously you grew up with this. How important was it to instill that in them?
Well, they need a good work ethic, I believe, so.
It doesn't matter if they stay on the farm or not.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's obviously, I think that's a great part of your story, to see how you guys have come far, how you've managed to keep going, and how you have your family involved to keep it going. And when we talk about the Outstanding Young Farmer nomination, what does that mean for you and the farm?
It's an honor. Yeah, it's truly an honor to be nominated, and I guess we're still young enough to class in that category, so that's a bonus too.
Pushing the limit. No, we know some of the past recipients, and to see what they've done for agriculture in general in Saskatchewan, and to see where they've gone is really quite an honor to be put beside that and have the chance to run with them. So.
Well, we certainly wish you luck moving forward. Before that, though, I do want to just touch on, we've seen it about 5-6 years you guys have had Love Home Holsteins, 70 cows.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future?
We have lots of ideas. It's which direction to go, I guess, right?
Can you share some of those ideas?
Well, our kids are still young enough now where we don't know if they would continue or not. So probably their short-term goals, long-term goals, but it all depends on where they want to go too. If they want to be involved in it, then our 70 cows, we're going to have to grow on that.
Right.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff with genetics as well. So being able to continue to develop the genetic side of the farm would be one goal. Expansion, maybe the youngest would like a robot barn one day.
Wow,
So
6
we'll
years
see.
old.
She's already planned it out. Yeah, she needs a robot barn, she thinks.
That is amazing.
I like to feed people, so if there was ever a possibility for on-farm processing, that would be my goal. But we'll have to see if it ever
You never know.
has the opportunity to develop. So
Educating school kids. There's a lot of kids, like not the last year with COVID, but prior to that, there's been a lot of school tours come through, and it's kind of, they can see it hands-on. Then we'll leave cows to be milked and calves to be fed, and they get to have a first-hand experience at it. So.
Super important, obviously, that education component, because it keeps everyone
Yeah.
up to date and in the know of what's happening. Now, you just touched on something that turned in my head that I should ask this. COVID has affected everyone in a variety of ways. And Jessica, you mentioned, people had doubts on whether you guys could make it through How did COVID impact you guys?
Honestly, I feel like we were so lucky to be on the farm because the cows don't quit.
Right.
And so we got to still go to work every single day the same as normal, except for that the kids were home.
Right.
Which was fine. We just altered our day, and so it was a little bit easier. There were some other impacts, like within the industry, obviously, but we've managed them fairly well. And so agriculture has been lucky.
Right.
People still need to eat. So we're very, very blessed and feel very, very fortunate to, have this career that COVID didn't touch as much.
As bad,
Yeah.
For sure. And I have to ask this question because since you mentioned that there was doubt on how far you could get or the success you guys would have, what does it feel like now to know? You've still managed, you're doing great. You have these plans for the future of how you could see things go in different areas. You're nominated for Outstanding Young Farmer. What does it mean for you to see this?
Some days I wonder if we're over that hill yet or if we're still learning, but no, it's great to know that we've put in like 6 pretty hard years of our lives to get to where we're at now, and still want to keep growing with that. So,
Well,
Still very thankful for the time before that.
right.
That we learned so much to be able to go on our own.
And that's the thing, right? I think that's the struggles are where you get the lessons and you learn and you build from that. So,
and you got to learn from mistakes too.
right.
If somebody tells you how to do it every time, you never learn from a mistake, or you never grow on your own, right? And
Yeah.
I think together we've grown quite a bit just in our farming, and
I love it.
definitely a challenge some days. And
What isn't a challenge, Michael? If people knew back and behind the scenes of the challenges we've just put on with this interview. Well, I'm so happy that you could join me for this interview, and I do wish you well and good luck when the winner is announced. But in the meantime, if people want to get to know more about what you guys are all about, where can they find more information about Love Home Holsteins?
We do have a Facebook page that is open to the public, so they can stop on Facebook there. And feel free to message us if you have any questions as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for joining me and for putting up with the technical issues that we had before we hit record. So thank you again and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
Joining me now is another nominee for the Outstanding Young Farmers, and I am pleased to be joined by Stuart Cheddar, who's joining me virtually. Stuart, thanks so much for joining me.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your nomination. How does it feel?
Thank you. It's exciting. I remember when I started farming, I was leasing a farm in Alberta at that time, and I saw coverage of the Alberta Outstanding Young Farmer program. And that would have been about 10 years ago. And I remember at that time reading about it and thinking, those are the people who've made it. They've built their farms, they've built their families, their businesses, made contributions to their communities and the environment. And it was definitely people in that network who inspired me to farm and who I wanted to emulate. So feels good to have my name nominated.
So before we went on air, I was saying that you've got quite a story, and you just kind of added to it as we were talking before we started on air. I think something that's interesting for some would be the fact that you're a first-generation farmer, and you moved from BC to Saskatchewan just to farm. How does that even happen?
Yeah, good question. I grew up on a cattle ranch in BC, so I grew up in agriculture. But after university, I got a job. I was working in Alberta, At that point, I was working in agriculture banking, and I was just so inspired by my customers, their stories, how they built their farms. And the more you can ask as their banker, because in that role you can ask really probing, the more I learned that every farm just started by someone who was passionate about it and was willing to bet on themselves and go for it. And so it was really that job that inspired me to, that even just put the thought in my head that I could farm on my own. I'm from BC, that's where my family is, but land there is so expensive. It would be just, in my mind, impossible to start there. At that point, I was in Alberta, and the same story, land values are so high. So I started in Alberta land, but it was my move to Saskatchewan where I really found opportunity, where their agriculture opportunity is just so huge here. So yeah, being a first generation farm is something I'm really proud of, because I think that is fairly rare in 2021. And I hear so many people say, it's impossible to start a farm. It's impossible to start farming now. And it's kind of nice to say, like, oh, watch me, I'm doing it.
I love it. And I want to get...
And it's been...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's been hard, like looking back, some of the sacrifices, some of the work, it was just blind passion and naivety that really kept me going at times. So it definitely wasn't easy, and I can understand why people say it's impossible, but it is possible.
And you're living proof, obviously, Stuart. You have, like I said, I want to get more into your story, but it's interesting that you went from agribusiness or banking into, you know what, I'm heading over to Saskatchewan, I'm going to do this farm thing. Was there one thing that triggered you? Like, obviously you were dealing with clients that you were talking to every day and you were seeing, getting that inspiration and motivation, but what was the one thing that triggered you to go, you know what, I'm getting out of this and I'm going into that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was one thing that triggered me, but I can remember one moment that kind of where that decision was made. And I went out one evening to one of my customers, and they were a dairy farm, and I milked with them. So that was my first experience on a dairy farm, my first time milking cows. And it was just the most beautiful evening. It was a family working together on a beautiful multi-generation farm. Watching them work together was so amazing. Their peaceful farm, the life they built, their relationships, everything about that night was just that beautiful farm life that people romanticize. And we finished milking and we sat on some buckets in the yard and drank some beer. And I just remember thinking, like, this is living. This is what I want. I have to find a way. So I don't know if there was one thing that triggered the decision, but there was that moment when I thought what this family has built, I'd love to build that.
And here we are. Now you have your cattle farm. Can you tell us about your farm? Tell us a little bit more for those who might not be familiar with your farm. Tell us all about it.
For sure, yeah. So right now my farm operates as a purebred cattle herd. So I run about 145 cows, purebred Red Angus, and Limousin cattle. I describe myself as a very grass-based regenerative farmer. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my farm management decisions are based around soil conservation and trying to stem my production that minimize the use of inputs, both from a cost perspective and also from an environmental perspective. So there's 5 principles of soil health, and I get all crazy about them and love chatting about them. So my farm kind of production has transitioned from being so passionate about livestock to realizing that healthy livestock need healthy grass, and healthy grass needs healthy soil. And so I find in the last year or two, as I learn more, my passion in agriculture is more looking at the soil than looking at the livestock.
Oh, I love it. Now you started saying the word healthy, and it reminded me of a story that I've read about you. Were you doing workouts on the farm, or were you starting fitness classes on the farm?
Yeah, it never really evolved into fitness classes, but I have an outdoor gym. When COVID hit, I found a CrossFit rig on Kijiji and welded it to a frame, and I can pull it around the farm. And there's tractor tires out there and big truck tires on like a barbell. So it's been a lot of fun. A few neighbors come over for workouts, and I actually did one today at noon out there. And yeah, I think for me that whole paradigm of healthy livestock needing healthy grass, needing healthy soil, also translates being healthy people, and being out on the farm is healthy living, active life. It's kind of cool how all those things are kind of aligning in my life right now, of passions in agriculture, passions in fitness and health, and the social elements that come along with those two interests as well.
Well, it's interesting that you said it was during, obviously, this pandemic. The past year has obviously affected many people, and many have turned to fitness, obviously, for mental health. And that's kind of the next area I wanted to go to, because obviously mental health plays a big toll, especially in the ag industry and farming. But you also had more, I guess, self-discovery and self-acceptance was something that you kind of went through as a farmer, and understanding kind of your place as a gay farmer. How did that also work into this healthy mindset that you've now created for yourself?
Yeah, good question. A lot of my farm story that I've been more comfortable sharing lately has been that journey of accepting myself as a gay farmer. Growing up, I've never seen or heard of a gay farmer. It wasn't something that was visible or that I knew possible. I definitely had stereotypes or judgments in my mind that I had to choose whether I wanted to be a gay man or whether I wanted to be a farmer. And I really wanted to farm, so that's what I chose. So yeah, it's time to get comfortable with myself. And I really do think that I can credit my farm for a lot of that. There's so much I can look to in nature where diversity leads to resilience, where embracing diversity, celebrating your differences is how you are stronger and how you get through things. I mean, in farming, especially, whether it's intercrop production, whether it's hybrid vigor in your calf crop, whether it's responsible crop rotations, I mean, you can make your farm a lot more resilient by embracing diversity. And I think some of those stories slowly taught me lessons that I didn't really know I needed, but I definitely so. Yeah, that's definitely another example of the farm story influencing my life, and another reason I'm so happy to have this story on my farm.
Well, I mean, when people look at your story now, you're a first generation farmer, first of all, who picked up and moved from the West over to the prairies, starting your own farm. And obviously, being an openly gay farmer, which a lot of people, like you said, you're not familiar with that story. You don't see it as being something common. So in a way, you've created this platform where you can share your own stories. So when you think about others who are hearing about your story, and obviously being nominated as one of the outstanding young farmers in Saskatchewan, you have this opportunity for people to look to you and kind of hopefully recognize something inside of them that they may not be familiar with, and how you just said the diversity of the farm and how the farm itself has helped you. What do you hope people take away from your story?
I guess two things I'd say to that would be, one would be celebrating Saskatchewan. The farm community, the people of Saskatchewan are the best people. So when it comes to self-acceptance or diversity in agriculture, Saskatchewan's a great place to be because the people are so amazing. But secondly, I'd also add that the diversity conversation in agriculture is, for me personally, timely, so important to where we are as an industry, whether it's labor shortages, whether it's farm succession, all those sorts of things. The diversity and inclusion discussion is both the right way to treat people and a great social conversation to have, but it's also an important business conversation we need to have for our industry, because we need people. Urban and labor shortages are issues that we are facing and we're going to continue to face, and we definitely need to make sure that there's a spot in agriculture for anyone who wants to be here, because we need them.
Absolutely. You know what, Stuart? I think whether you're in the farming or ag industry or not, I think your story is an inspiration for many people. And I'm honored to get a chance to chat with you. And, whether you win or not, you have a story that many people can take so much away from. And I know you hear the cliche from the celebrities where they say it's an honor just to be nominated, but being recognized, you touched on it at the beginning, knowing about the Alberta Young Farmers, but now being recognized, especially for something with your own blood, sweat, and tears that you've built on your own, essentially. What does it mean to be recognized?
It means a lot. Like, this is a big deal in my eyes. And I think in agriculture and farming, sometimes progress can be so frustrating. It's slow. You're dealing with nature. You can go backwards, even in spite of your best efforts. So sometimes to take a pause and remind yourself how far you've come is such a great thing. And I know looking at other previous winners and just the outstanding young farmers in general, they are outstanding people, and the networking and meeting them is one of the highlights I'll enjoy the most.
Well, we wish you nothing but luck, and I know we'll find out who the winner is on June 17th. In the meantime, if people want to know more about you, if they want to connect with you, want to know more about your farm, Stuart, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, good question. I'm on Instagram as Stuart Cheddar, or Facebook as well. So I love social media connections, especially on farm where some friendships are.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It would be better to meet in person, but I know virtual is the way to do it for now, and hopefully sometime soon we can meet in person. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with me, Stuart, and good luck.
You bet. Thank you.
This is unprecedented.
Initial report. We just don't know what tomorrow will bring.
Grandma! Oh, it's so good to see your face.
Writing in chalk spreads messages of hope throughout the city.
All right. Is everyone dialed in?
I think we've proved that just by keeping on, pulling together, staying positive, we can get through anything. Turn your hate into poetry, pain into power, enemies to friends, and your minutes into hours.
Well, I'm so excited to introduce you to our next guest, who you will be seeing a little bit more of in the coming weeks leading up to Canada's Farm Show Virtual Event in June. Sherilyn Jolie Nagle is joining us, and she will be your host for Farm Show Virtual in June. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell I'm a little excited to have you?
I'm a little excited myself.
So I think before we get into the excitement of what's to come in June, maybe for those who might not be familiar with who you are, Sherilyn, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a farm girl. I'm a farm girl from Saskatchewan. I grew up in my hometown of Mossbank, southwest of Moose Jaw. And my husband and I are back there raising 2 daughters on our farm operation and having a great time doing it. Could not be happier to be back in this province.
So I do want to ask, obviously it's part of your life, right? Farming and the ag industry. But what about the ag industry are you passionate about? What kind of topics would you say that you lean towards or have more interest in?
Yeah, well, you know, it's part of my farm story that I grew up on a farm, but I did not have an appreciation growing up in Saskatchewan for all that was presented to me as a child. I'm trying to teach my daughters now that they are growing up in the best place in the world, and I think COVID has highlighted some of that, but I'm challenged because I didn't have that appreciation growing up as a kid. So I thought for sure that I would do anything else except become a farmer. The world was open to me and I was going to travel and see it. And, you know, just part of my farm story that I've ended up back here. And I have a truly deep appreciation for all aspects of this industry. I'm an expert in none of it, but I have a deep appreciation for all of it and have met some truly incredible people who are inspiring and leading in different ways around the globe.
And I think that's one thing when you think of the ag industry, it's like a bottomless pit really in different avenues and different industries and sectors that you can kind of focus on and dig deeper in. And obviously when we talk about Farm Show and Canada's Farm Show, there are a million different areas that you can look at focusing on. And I know that you like to look at certain aspects of it, but what are you hoping to bring to Canada's Farm Show virtual event in June?
You know, I accepted this challenge for a number of reasons. I mean, there wasn't any reason not to, but I accepted this challenge for a couple of reasons. One of them, if I'm being really honest, is because I don't particularly like virtual events. Fair. And I'm sure the Canada's Farm Show does not want to hear that. But I think our audience for the Canada's Farm Show virtual event will feel my pain.
Yes.
I really kind of dug my heels in through COVID, not wanting to participate and not getting stimulated. I really didn't feel the connection with the audience. I wasn't getting the networking that I was used to. So a challenge for me will be to learn to appreciate virtual events. And I'm looking at it from a different lens. I used to think it was unfortunate that we couldn't have Canada's Farm Show, and unfortunately we have to go virtual. And now I see it as an opportunity. I think we get to have a farm show rather than, you know, put it on the shelf like we had to do last year. We get to have a farm show.
Yeah.
And I'm really, you know, quite energized about the panels and the speakers that we have, and I'm excited to share that with the audience. And the second reason I accepted this challenge was the people. You know, I've met some truly incredible people. For 2 decades, I've worked in this industry in the agricultural policy space.
Yep.
And I've met some people along the way that have inspired me. And I hope to be able to share some of their stories and share some of the work that they've been doing that doesn't typically get highlighted. For the most part, I think people look at policy as something that's a bit dry. And in all fairness, some of the subject matter can be a bit dry. But the people are not. The people are anything but dry and boring. And I want to be able to, you know, bring some excitement and some energy onto the policy side. Thrilled that day 2 of the event is focused on international trade, which happens to be an interest of mine.
Oh, wow. So you're going to fit right into the virtual event happening. And it's interesting that you say that because I think we have found possibly a COVID fatigue or a virtual fatigue. But what's nice about this event is that it is available to our audience and to all those that are going to register for their convenience at their time, and they can kind of intake it in bits and pieces rather than having to sit through something.
On demand.
There you go.
This is the world we live in, and I was not born with the patient gene. So those events that I have to sit for at the time is a bit inconvenient. Now, being able to offer this event on demand means you can pour your morning coffee and take in a session, and you could crack a beer in the afternoon and take in another session. So,
I love it. That is the attitude we need when we're heading into the summer and for Canada's Farm Show virtual event. Now, there was something that I'm actually excited for you also to take part in, and that is the fact that we did do a rebranding. And we announced it in the end of 2019, December of 2019, and obviously that was us transitioning from Canada's Farm Progress Show to Canada's Farm Show. And now, having missed doing it in 2020, you're getting an experience and a chance to not only kind of reintroduce this new brand, but also you're doing something that is essentially historic for Canada's Farm Show because it is going on a new platform. But the excitement is that we're still staying connected, that we can eventually get back to the face-to-face in 2022. Does that feel like a little bit of pressure?
Perhaps a little pressure. You know, there's a great video on the website that shows the historical nature and the growth of Canada's Farm Progress Show.
Yeah.
And Farm Progress Show has just been part, even though I wasn't interested in being a farmer, I believe it's been 43 years that the show has been running.
Yeah.
And so, like, really quick bar napkin math would tell you I could have been at any and all of those shows. So, albeit some as a child. So I've participated in this show as a guest, as a consumer, and then in the policy side and as a speaker. So I've seen this show grow, I've seen it ebb and flow. And when you watch that video and you look historically at where the show has come, you know, the tire kickers, all of the new innovations of agricultural technology that has been there, it's exciting. Mm-hmm. And one of those years will be virtual. And I think it'll be really cool to be part of that year. I look forward to seeing, you know, decades from now, seeing a new video that says, look at where we've come and look at where we went.
And I think it is also taking into the pillars that we have, the innovation, collaboration, education, and essentially the virtual is almost the innovation part when you also look at different farm equipment that we see coming out with the new gadgets that you see happening.
Yeah,
for farming.
You got it. Agriculture has always been on the cutting edge of technology. This industry has forever embraced innovation and technology in all aspects. I would say agriculture is one of the most technologically advanced industries on the globe. And being able to bring a farm show that is geared to farmers and people in the industry as well as consumers is, like you said, an innovation of its own.
Well, I'm super excited to tune in on June 16th and 17th for the virtual event. Can you tell me one thing possibly you're excited about for the event?
Oh boy, you know, the international trade piece of it is near and dear to me. Everything that we grow on our farm operation is destined for the export market. So I truly love that people around the world would typically come to Regina to take in the show and to meet farmers like me and companies that we have in this province. But they will also be attending on demand around the globe to take all of that in. So that's truly exciting. I also happen to be a bit of a history buff, and I love to pay homage to the industry from where we've come and where we're going. So there is a pioneers panel that I get to moderate, and I'm quite excited about that. I love to talk about, you know, the innovations that we used to have and pay my respects to the people who have done this before me.
For all of those wanting to know all the information when it comes to Canada's Farm Show virtual event happening in June, you can head on over to the website, canadasfarmshow.com, and all the information is there, including how you can register for free. And we will continue to keep checking in and following the social channels for more information with regards to programming. Thank you so much, Sherilyn, for joining me.
My absolute pleasure.
Well, I have brought my friend Sherilyn back for the ending of the show because not only is she going to be hosting the virtual event in June, I am very excited. I wish I had a baton or a microphone to pass over to you because Sherilyn will be the new host for Farm Show TV going forward. And there's a lot of changes coming to the show which will happen and which we'll talk about more so after the virtual event. But I'm so excited. Congratulations. And I wish I could hug you. I know that's not what we can do right now. But how do you feel taking over for Farm Show TV?
Well, first of all, I think you've done a great job of setting up this show. I watch in awe, and you're very inspiring to be able to share these stories. For me, having an agricultural background, it's important to me, you know, inherently to share the stories that I didn't appreciate as a child and that I do appreciate in my adulthood. But I also give a lot of credit to journalists and broadcasters and people in the industry that go out of their way to share farm stories on our behalf. So thank you for that, and I look forward to this.
Well, I'm going to speak with certainty. It's exciting to have a new voice coming in and fresh perspective, different kind of outlook and viewpoints. And as you've mentioned, seeing those stories that you may not have appreciated in the past, you can now bring those stories to life. And I've always said that you're on a platform where you can be a voice for those who may not have that voice or may not be comfortable. So are there certain stories that, now with having the eyes on us, are there certain stories that you hope people reach out to you and want to share? Is there something that you're hoping to share more of?
I can say with absolute certainty and no bias whatsoever that the agriculture industry has some of the most interesting people on the planet. So there will not be a shortage of stories for us to tell, but it's important that we reach out to the audience and get from them the kind of stories that they want to hear. For sure. I remember as a farm kid watching Bob Simpson on Farmgate and really I was grateful that he would put on a show that was directed to farmers and talked about the issues that were relevant to us on the farm today. And I don't know that there's a lot of shows out there that really use farmers as an audience. So I'm hoping as a farmer myself and someone who I feel is in touch with the issues that are relevant to this generation and the next generation, that I'll be able to, get my thumb on the pulse of the industry and share some really cool stories.
Well, of course, we're always welcoming story ideas for Farm Show TV, and that continues to happen. If you want to pitch an idea, you're more than welcome to send us messages on our Facebook page, Canada's Farm Show. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing what you bring to this show, and I am excited, and I just can't wait. So again, welcome, congratulations. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Sherilyn in the coming weeks and months. Again, there will be some changes happening for Farm Show TV in general, which we'll see more so down the road. But first and foremost, we want to focus on the virtual event in June. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us for this episode of Farm Show TV. And I think we're just going to leave it on a lighter side now with our favorite, Quick Dick McDick.
Dick McDick coming to you from Saskatchewan, and today we will be talking about the importance of spring training.
Getting your back and biceps in shape is an important part of spring training. If you don't have a chin-up bar, you can use a bin that has a ladder a little ways off the ground that you lost the bottom part of the ladder and can't find.
Spring training has been unsuccessful with this throttle body spring as it sticks open, and I have blasted through 2 T intersections, 4 stop signs, and 1 co-op grocery parking lot. Sure, now you work.
Fun fact about spring training: if you train in a town with the word spring in it, you can increase the results of your spring training by 300 to 500%.
Be sure to follow all spring training with the appropriate levels of protein intake. Venison.
Spring training is an important part of your bovine herd health. But as far as the bulls go, spring training for them consists of me showing them pictures of cows to get them in the mood.
Woo, Stanley, look at the udders on her, eh?
Yeah, buddy, yeah, I know. Do not attempt any form of spring training with the herd. They are pregnant, they're bagging up, they're hungry. Feed them and train them once they have calved.
This is Quick Dick McDick signing off, reminding you, if you don't want any of your muscles or joints straining, try implementing a little bit of spring training. We'll catch you next time.